when I was at Amazon, the whole time I'm there, I'm like, okay, how does this thing work? Like, what the hell's going on here? And, you read the Everything Store, you
Good
walk
book.
around, great book, you walk around the Amazon buildings, you just try to think back to the garage, right? They're selling the books in the garage, and then they induct on that, and then they basically they own South Lake Union in Seattle and are expanding, and they have the spheres and everything. And when you're walking around the Amazon campus and you're seeing all the different areas and you're seeing the whiteboards and the contents of the whiteboard and you're seeing the leadership principles everywhere and you're seeing the internal email chains and you're seeing the internal badge system that you get, for being rewarded with your Amazon devotion, and you see all these things that compose the Borg culture of Amazon. You see the ways that they are able to extract the most innovative ideas from the smartest people in the company and make those people believe that they're getting adequately compensated for those ideas. You see how to institutionalize that. And eventually you say, okay, I get it. I don't want to be a part of this. This is not the system I want to be a part of. And then you get out and you start seeing the external world and you start to see startups. You start to see the maturation process from the founder point of view. You start to see the systemization of the startup through Y Combinator, the strategic systemization. It becomes more of a definitive process for how you get to Borg scale. It becomes demystified. The founders become less of a deity, right? I mean, you look at the best founders these days, I assume you're not looking at them like deities. You're looking at them like there's a guy or girl who made a very smart series of strategic decisions, who managed to avoid pitfalls, who managed to get up when they fell down, and they were persistent, and that got them to where they are today. And it's deterministic, and they're not a deity. And if it's deterministic, and if you're an entrepreneur, then you should be thinking from day one, what do I do when I get to Borg? What do I do when I get to Borg scale? How am I arranging that? I'll ask you and then I'll go. What do you do? If you do get to Borg scale, what's the sustainable way of doing that? How do you avoid becoming one of these companies that gets really big and then some internal rot happens? Some cultural shift happens, right? I love Stripe. I will still call Stripe a Borg because that's what they're becoming, and they're going to need to reinvent their culture in order to avoid cultural stagnation, because they have enabled entrepreneurship at a scale that their current culture probably can't sustain, because all the best employees are going to be like, well, I can build on Stripe Connect and I don't have to work at Stripe. I'm going to go do that.
What's cool about like working at these big organizations that started like Stripe did in the beginning, or like at Amazon. I like that you use the Amazon analogy because our head of community, her name's Shanaz. We talk a lot about our work at Career Karma, where we have software, like you talked about. We have an app, we have a website, but there's a lot of things that we do manually as well, like the whole doing things that don't scale type of thing before we code it up, right? So we like to test things manually before we apply code to it, and we say that's putting books into boxes. Very similar to like Amazon, like you like that level of humility where like no work is beneath you, and like from the CEO all the way down to the I don't like saying this, but like the lowest level employee is willing to put books into boxes. Very important to like recognize that there's a lot of powerful things that you learn, like the memos at Amazon. Very good things to learn about. Reading, just all these different things that are like positive things that you can take with you anywhere. To your point about deities and founders, like, yeah, when I first came to Silicon Valley, like the founders and the investors, especially by the media, were like painted as gods and celebrities. What I love about YC and just being in the batch and just like meeting these people, like Stripe founders and Airbnb founders, like you meet them and like, you're right, they're remarkable, ambitious people. But when you see them and you hear their stories, you're like, wow, they're just like me. I can do this. Like, you can do it? Oh, I could definitely do this. It's have to like follow the fundamentals and like stick to it and keep iterating and blah blah blah. Stripe, they talk about the Collison effect, right? Early on, he would literally go to developers and like give them a laptop to install Stripe.
Collison install.
The Collison install, right? They're known for that, right? And that's probably something that shaped their culture to get them to where they are today. I think once you start getting to their level, this is why even at our level, it's very, 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 very important to ground yourself in guiding principles or company values and mission statements that you actually live and you hire and fire by. I got that from Tony Shea at Zappos, RIP, right? Where, we bucket our guiding principles into how we act, how we decide, how we win. And it's very important for us to like make sure that that's instilled. And the way to, as you're growing your organization, even when you're doing performance reviews, making sure that those things are incorporated. I think a lot about a book that's called The Starfish and the Spider. Have you heard of it?
Nope.
It's called The Starfish and the Spider, The Unstoppable Power of Leaderless Organizations. Right? Where it talks about if you attack a spider at its head, which would be like the founders, it dies. Right? But if you split a starfish in half, it creates two starfish. So how do you take your company from just like a founder-driven culture to a mindset, to an idea? Because ideas are bulletproof. That's V for Vendetta. Right?
Haven't seen it.
You haven't seen V for Vendetta? Anyway, it's okay.
You haven't played Dominion?
You're right. There you go. Good at touche. Right. So what's cool about it? It's kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? So people came up with these principles that help people create habits to break free from being an alcoholic, and then that idea was taken on by so many other people, and it's like really powerful thing. It's like religion, right? It's like you killed Christ and and accidentally created a new religion. It's kind of like anything. Like sometimes people try to attack the leader and it sparks a whole nother thing. When you're building an organization, if you want to keep that energy or that like day one energy, like Amazon's always day one, you have to figure out how to keep people dreaming. And to be honest with you, I don't know because I'm not at that stage yet, but it's something I think about a lot. And it's part of the reason why I hired a head of people so early. Shout out to Jessica Lamb, because these people understand not just how to hire people and recruit, they understand industrial psychology and how to really shape an organization that has the qualities that we're talking about right now. So, long story short, I would check out that book, and there's another version of it where there's like the spider, the starfish, but then there's hybrid organizations that have some hierarchy, but at the same time it has this like anybody can rise. They use examples of the Apaches, and part of the reason why it was so hard to take down the Apaches is because if you took down a leader, somebody else will rise up. How do you create an environment where people could be promoted from within? There's some redundancy within certain departments and so on and so forth. How to take someone that like may not be fully qualified for something, but they can rise up and step in certain areas. It's challenging, but it's fun, and I think that it's possible to do.